collecting revenue, which is a subsidiary activity, and it's not the main function, but we collect the revenue largely through the sale of stamp papers. So the logistics and the management of stamp papers, right from printing, distribution, storage, and then ultimately usage. These are basically the three main functions of the department. Just to give you a small indication of the numbers that we are dealing with, we are the third largest. We keep on, oscillating between the second largest and the third largest revenue generator for the government. This year we will be generating about rupees 11,000 crores from this department. We handle about 30 lakh transactions per annum, and this would mean that we are assuming that in every document there is a seller, there is a buyer, there are two witnesses, and there is a document writer from one side and the document writer on the other side. So assuming about 6 people per transaction, although there are certainly more because a large number of transactions, a lot of relatives, etc., people would accompany the buyers and the sellers. We have about 2 crore footfalls in our 355 offices in India. So that would, you would imagine that in a period of 1 year, almost 1/10 of the population of the state comes and visits the office at one point in time or the other. So that is the number of transactions which we need to service every year. And this is done through a network of about 354 offices which are spread across the state. So the basic idea is that the citizen is, and this functioning is a bit technical because you need to first identify who is the buyer, who is the seller, whether the buyer has the authority, the seller has the authority to sell. Then you also have to look at, if you sell, what is the valuation of the property, because a certain percentage of that property is to be charged as a stamp duty. Then you charge another calculation which is registration fees, which is again the value of the document, capped to a maximum limit. And then you need to put all the details in a particular technical format so that the property is uniquely identified and that you can verify the veracity of the transaction which took place between an individual A, buyer, and the seller B, and that you stand testimony in future that in case a dispute about this document, the department is there to stand behind that this is a validly transacted document or not. So the citizen has all these issues which he faces, deed writers, or for more complicated documents they use the services of a lawyer. One of the central things which we are, reform processes which we are targeting is that if you want to use an advocate, please go ahead and do it. But if you want to register your document, and most of the registration documents, very standard processes, there are standard language could be used. Can we enable the citizen to be confident enough to come to our offices and get his or her document registered on their own? The key issues for the department is, one is the issue of stamp storage. So if you are 11,000 crores worth of stamp is being sold every year, imagine printing those stamps. The maximum denomination is 25,000. So imagine the kind of paperwork it generates to get those printed in a secure place, transported, stored here, then transported across to the different treasuries, from where it is then handed over to the vendors, and then vendors in turn hand it over to the citizens, and then that document is being used. Imagine the kind of logistics which you would require. This is, one is the issue of logistics and the other is the issue of the cost. So printing, storage, soiled stamp papers, a lot of things, wastage, all these things happen. So can we do something using technology to eliminate this or to reduce this logistics to some extent? The other thing which happens is, when you look at manual registration of stamps, a lot of discretion is vested in the officer who is the registering officer, or the sub-registrar as it is called in our parlance. Can we do something to minimize his discretion? For instance, the valuation of property, some sub-registrar sitting there can say that your property is valued X, Somebody will say no, it is valued Y. Somebody may say that if you do some favor to me, I will reduce it from Y to X. And there is no way that the top management sitting out here would know what kind of side deals are going on between the citizen and the sub-registrar. So one of the things is, can we use technology to limit this discretion? And we believe that it is so, and there is a solution which we are just proposing, which we are about to implement. Many other states have done it. Then, because these sub-registrars located at 355 locations in the state, many of them are working manually, or if they are working on a computerized board, then the information is stored at the servers in the sub-registrar offices. All these have become islands of information. It is available, the information is available to the officers, sub-registrars, but it is not available to the public. So there is an asymmetric information sharing with the public. So there is more power, and information is power. If information is power, there is more power in the hands of the officialdom as compared to the public. Can we do something to reduce this asymmetry? This discretion also leads to a loss of revenue. So insofar as the government is concerned, that is also a key question which needs to be looked at. And the other thing is that because these transactions happen in different offices, which are not known to anybody or not available in the public domain unless you take the trouble of visiting that office and going through their registers, manual registers, a lot of fraudulent transactions also take place. For instance, so since it is not recorded, not linked to the land records, a person registering one would not know whether a similar transaction has taken place on the same property in the past. So you have same property being sold multiple number of times. There are also equations when you have taken a bank loan and therefore the property is mortgaged, and an unsuspecting buyer buys the property from you without knowing that the property is hypothecated to the banks, because the banks have no facility at this point in time to update the mortgage status. Now all this is possible if our applications could somehow possibly speak to these financial institutions, to treasuries, to land record documents, and I think these are all within the realm of possibilities, and the solution which we are now proposing will address all these issues. So, as I said, we have one issue which is relating to the logistics of stamp paper management. To better address that issue, we have introduced e-stamping, where we have given the freedom to a citizen to either approach treasury or the stamp vendors in the normal way which they would. But we have also put in in each district 20 or 25 different vending points where you could pay your money through an RTGS. You don't even need cash now. Earlier, suppose you have to pay for 40 lakh rupees a stamp duty. You come with 40 lakh rupees cash, deposit it in the treasury, get a certificate, or get 25,000 stamp paper denomination multiplied till such time as you reach the value of 40 lakhs and come and register. So through this e-stamping method, what we are trying to do is, you transfer your money through RTGS for whatever value of stamp is required. A single sheet of paper is printed, which is electronic stamp. There is a barcode, which when you present that document in my sub-registrar's office, they would see whether that barcode is validly printed or not. And then they lock that stamp paper so to prevent that stamp paper from being used in a future transaction. So this is already being introduced for values of stamp more than 10,000. We haven't got it below 10,000 because below 10,000 it is the stamp vendors which we are selling, and to avoid their reaction at the present moment. Eventually we hope to co-opt all these stamp vendors as authorized collection centers, because all they need is an investment in a computer, an internet connection and a printer, because they then would be in a position to dispense stamp. So we are in talks with them, and eventually we hope to get all of them, and not only all of them but many more such stamp vendors, because my point is that if you have a wider choice for the citizens, they would be less harassed also, and they would have better services also, more prompt services. So e-stamping has already been introduced. We have very encouraging response from the 10 odd districts that we have introduced, and I think by the end of up in July 2014 we would, as our infrastructure, barcode readers and so on and so forth, are put in place, we will have all my 355 offices enabled with e-stamping. Now, we still haven't made it compulsory, as Delhi has made it that all stamp paper above 500 rupees will be compulsory stamped paper document. We have at this point in time permitted both modes of doing that. If you prefer the old paper route, please go ahead and do that. But this facility is available. Eventually, I think we would look at making that compulsory as well. Insofar as the other two functions, that the registration of document and the storage and archival is concerned, we have a 2-tier application currently running at the sub-registrar offices. But as I said, the limitation is that each of these sub-registrar offices become an island of information, and that information is not available in the public domain, A, for the convenience of the public, and B, for the convenience of the top management, because it is just impossible to get all that data and do any kind of MIS there. So basically we have two, and I think I haven't added this longer term perspective, but I will try to convey a sense of what we intend to do in this department. The first process is that just jump the 2-tier application which is currently available, make it a web-enabled application which will be residing in a central data center here at Lucknow with a disaster recovery center. All the transactions, 30 lakh transactions which is taking place in the UP in a given year would eventually come. And what will come? One is the details of the property transacted, and B is the scanned copy of the document per se, so that retrieval can become easy. This would then enable us to look at online issual of encumbrance certificate, which is what you see, whether this property is encumbered either through a mortgage or having been sold to somebody else or so on and so forth, which is the due diligence which most buyers do when they purchase a property. And certified copy. So you have transacted a document or somebody else has transacted a document, you require a copy. At this point in time, you need to go make an application to the sub-registrar of the concerned zone. So this will be eliminated. This can, a digitally signed certified copy can be made available, and this is part of the process. Then just as we are trying to eliminate the monopoly of the vendors on the one side, vendors and treasury on one side, we are also trying to eliminate the monopoly of the sub-registrar. And what we are saying is, within the district, once the back end is in place, I mean, theoretically and technically there is no difficulty that you can go to any one of the sub-registrars and they will have concurrent jurisdiction to register your property. So, to the extent that you are forced to go to one person, now you have a choice, a wider choice. The anywhere registration within the state has some legal difficulty, so I have put that as a medium-term initiative. And finally, we are also setting up as part of this project 3 high-profile, very good centers at Lucknow, Noida, and Ghaziabad, where you will have a completely different look and feel of that office. It will be an outsourced office, and if that experiment succeeds and if people appreciate that, and maybe people might be asked to charge 10 rupees, 20 rupees per document or per page more. If that succeeds, then we eventually hand it out and we completely outsource the front offices, with the back end being done by the department as they have been able to do. So this is what broad plan is there for the department in the coming 3 to 4 years. This is the proposed solution. I will not really go into. So we have, the application will be Aadhaar enabled, so that identity problems can be sorted out. It will have digital payment systems, payment gateways, and so on. So it will also have mobile alerts, etc. that your property is being transacted, and also mobile appointments, registration by appointment. So all these features have been taken care of. I will not go into detail. If anybody is interested, I strongly recommend that we can interact post this session. So I have not been able on the benefits. I have already pointed out in the course of the presentation. So what basically one would seek is that a large of the IT industry is here. We are basically, the RFP is almost finalized. So what we seek is strong support from and partnerships from the industry, and we would, very like to interact with you closely to make sure that this is implemented in the time frame that I have indicated. So thank you so much. If there are any questions, I will be very happy to answer.
That was the chair of the session, Shri Alok Kumar, Secretary Stamp and Registration, Government of UP, delivering his keynote address. And if our audiences have any questions to be addressed to him, they are most welcome to please ask their questions. Any questions? Okay, then proceeding further with the session, I would like to invite onto the dais Shri N.S.N. Murthy, Director Ernst & Young LLP, to please come up and moderate the session. Please welcome Shri N.S.N. Murthy, the Executive Director Ernst & Young LLP.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, all of you.
Thank you, Pradesh, for the wonderful description of the activities that is going on in the ITRS. The current topic, today's topic on growth of IT infrastructure, it's actually an incomplete statement, because you can actually think beyond this: growth of IT infrastructure for business benefits, for citizen services, for creating an environment for a speeder activities in the state governments to complete the processes. Multiple. So the avenues are multiple. So what I'm and panelists here, they have come from different fora and different technologies and different areas. So what we will do is we'll try to actually see how best we can utilize everyone's experiences and bring that into the forum. Now I would invite Mr. Rajiv Agrawal. Sir, before that, since you are starting up a new entity, new department and structure, the challenges are totally different what Mr. Alok has mentioned. So it will be new organization to work. So how do you want to, in your presentation, I know you have a presentation, but I want you to also add, how are you going to select IT infrastructure which will be future-proof, which will also have private sector partnership models pre-decided, so that there is a longevity of partner involved business owner. These two aspects, I thought you can also include in your discussions.
Really an IT-based project, and yet the very pertinent reason why this project has been included in today's session. And as a speaker, I'm sure the vision will become clear in the coming few minutes. Before I come to the questions that are being raised, I'll just give you a brief overview of the project as has been envisaged for the city of Lucknow and the way we are moving forward. Just a few salient features. We have the route lengths out here, the two corridors that were planned initially, although of these two, the north-south corridor has been approved by the government of UP, and this will be the phase 1A. The other corridors will be taken up in due course. You can see the route lengths. The route lengths, 3.5 kilometers approximately, is the underground portion, which basically starts from Charpar, runs in front of the Vidhan Sabha, turns left towards Hazratganj, and then the train is going to emerge out of the ground, take a sharp turn in the KDC Babu Stadium, moves on near the university, etc. and then on to Municipal. The number of stations, academic interest, we have 22 stations on the north-south corridor, around 12 on the east-west corridor. This is a graphic representation of the routes. The one that starts from extreme south, that is from the Kanpur road, this is from the airport, and winds through the city, Alamabad, Charbagh, Hazratganj, the Lucknow University, IT crossing, Ahmedabad Road, Polytechnic crossing, and then on to Municipal. The east-west corridor is still, although out here we have shown it, that's predominantly underground, which goes through Aminabad, Chowk, and then on to Basant Corner. But that, the construction for that, and the approvals will be taken at a later stage. For those of you who are into traffic management, who would be interested in knowing the PHPTs, eUttar traffic. And as you can see, we are touching the magic figure of 20,000 plus very soon for the lakhs of corridor. And in fact, the viability of any metro project comes at this figure. These are design speeds, the technical parts. We are going for AC traction, although there have been suggestions for DC traction. As of now, we are planning for the OHA. We have two depots that are planned. One is, some of you would be aware, on the Kanpur road, where we have the 32nd Battalion, EAC Battalion, which we will be rearranging out there. And they'll be getting a brand new campus in the same area. And the rest, we'll be taking over for the depot. And obviously some land. In fact, the depot is not only going to provide maintenance facilities for the rigs, but also we are going to use that commercial. The track standard gauge rolling stocks 2.9 meters as we have at other metros, and obviously this depends on the traffic density. Signaling systems, we are trying to go in for CBTC, which are the more modern systems where we can have very low headways of as low as 70 seconds. Construction methods, girders, air collection board system capacity, you can easily touch 48,000 per hour. The cost estimates, we estimate the north-south corridor to be around 7,000 crores, and then the state taxes are going to be beyond it. The east-west corridor, as of when we take it, is around 5,500. The funding patterns for those of you who finance, it's basically an equity-based model where the equity is shared between the government of India and the government of UP. And then there are subordinate 10% tax. Land is given by the government of India, which is free of cost. Local bodies will be providing funds under innovative financing because there would be additional FARs, additional transit-oriented development will take place. There will be charges in terms of the better facilities and services that will be on offer. And then the rest, approximately 50 to 55% would come through loans, either from the World Bank, JICA, ADB, or some of the multilateral or bilateral agencies. Now this is something which would be interesting. Well, the financial rate of return is 8% plus, 8.1 to be precise. Most public transport systems, even if they break even, are considered to be variable. These projects are basically meant to provide facilities and accessibility to the public at large. And so even if they break even, that itself makes the project very viable because our economic rate of return is 19%. Where we include the social economic benefits, the benefits in terms of savings in fuel and time, ease of accessibility, etc. But even that said, the financial returns of 8% are very high, and as the Delhi Metro has shown, the figures, the actual traffic has been much higher than they had anticipated earlier. So we can actually achieve our traffic figures and we attain this rate of return, then the project will be paying back for itself also. And this something I'll come back to when I link it to the IT sector. So far as the project itself using IT services, it's a very small part. We are already designing our web portal. We will be using services of the State Data Center and the LMRC, the Metro Rail Corporation, will be a mini office. It will not be a tableless office, no. But yes, we will be basing our entire working on the net. Just a few pointers of what's in future. Techno-feasibility study of additional routes. Those of you who belong to Lucknow will be aware of these names, the Mill Road, Rostas Marg or Subhash Marg. We are planning a ring rail which will basically be covering PGI and the proposed IT city, which is going to be the hub of all IT activities in Lucknow. Then covering the new High Court building that is coming up on the Faizabad Road, and then again the proposed college. So these studies are still in the process of being conducted, and as and when the studies are complete, then we'll have future corridors. The two acts enacted by the Government of India, which we have already adopted and they have been extended to the Lucknow metropolitan area. Depot, which is a crucial component of any metro rail project, you already have the land, government land, which is in the process of being transferred. So far as the lead central government. Funding, as I already said, equity, loaning, and this funds which will be flowing in from local bodies which are going to gain out of the project itself. Small office. Sections, as you can see, that will be setting up heavy or top heavy is not required. And this is where we will be actually involving the private sector. Because for IT, we feel that we can actually outsource our entire requirements and meet those requirements with the private sector. And there we would definitely be welcoming the private sector to partner us in taking this project ahead. Not only during the project phase, where the requirement is obviously going to be much lesser, but later, after 3 years, when we move into the operations phase, that is where we'll really need the IT sector to come up and join hands with us in providing total business solutions, providing better accessibility to the public. And we are not only talking of a metro rail project, we are talking of a multimodal approach. We will be including feeder buses. We might even be providing bicycles or rickshaws, or depending on the mode of transport that may be needed at a particular transit station. And to provide this holistic approach, we will need business solutions through IT. And that is where I'm sure the private sector will be there to assist us and to provide the solutions to us. And that is the sole reason why we have not tried to establish our own IT department and then let them take up things in their own mundane fashion. Now, the metro is a transport project, and I don't really call it a rail project. Primarily, it does based on the rail, but then we do include other modes of transportation also, so that we can provide a end-to-end or the last mile connectivity also to all the commuters. The important part, especially why this project has been showcased in this August gathering, and we have the joints of Indian industry, the IT industry here. Delhi, I belong to Delhi here. And a few years ago, a decade ago, when the Delhi Metro project actually came out, it's actually brought a change in the mindset of people, how we can actually execute a project, and how it makes a difference in the living of the city. The quality of living definitely improves. Property prices, etc., they all rise, and I'm sure Arun will be very happy with that, because as our property prices rise, his income increases. It's a status symbol for the city. IT professionals, the service sector, I dare say, Delhi today can easily be termed the service capital of the nation. It may or may not be the economic capital, but it definitely is the service capital. And the metro has had a large part to play in that. Students, professionals. Today there is no fear about movement, going from one place to another. And public transportation, which is easily accessible, reliable, safe, does make a lot of difference. I remember the seminar, I think so, last month, the same hall, which was being chaired by the Honorable Chief Minister. And one of the speakers was a young girl from some school, and the only thing she had to ask was that girls can travel safely, and they should not have the fear of moving out of their houses, and they should be able to move without fear. And this is something I'm sure the metro can assure. This is something this system can provide to the citizens and the commuters of the city, to the visitors, to the tourists who come to Lucknow. And as these services are based in and start operating, I'm sure they will provide a fillip to the IT sector also, especially since we are thinking of making the IT city that's going to come up with the metro project. Airport to the IT city, or to the railway station, or to any other place of interest. Once it becomes easy, and once you're not worried about the transit times, so it does help you in moving it. And in today's world, being a metro city, a city that has a metro rail project, definitely makes one feel proud, and attracts more and more people towards the city. So friends, although we are still a long way ahead, we still have maybe a period of 3 to 5 years before the project actually is there and is in operation. But the coming years will be formative years, and I'm sure as we grow, so will the IT sector. Thank you.
तीन टिप्स हो गए, चौथा टिप निकाल और निकालना। हाँ, हमको दे दीजिए।
Any questions for Mr. Rajiv Agrawal? Let's do it at the end of the session. Now I would like to invite Mr. C. Velan. He is the CEO for TRIL. Mr. Velan, while you are reaching the podium to give the presentation, 2 questions I'll add to it. One is, how do you take the technology benefits towards the new initiatives like intelligent buildings, green buildings, stuff like that? So how do you take that into the infrastructure? And second point is, what are the various models you provide to your occupants, especially the SMEs? What kind of models which will help them grow the IT businesses very fast?
A very good afternoon, co-speakers in the dais, and ladies and gentlemen. Let me start answering your questions first before getting into my presentation. Yes, in infrastructure relating to IT campuses, there are 3 areas which are very sensitive. One, the operation of the campus through integrated building management systems, where seriously the IT coming in place. Number 2, security and surveillance part of it. And third, if you look at it, in any form or other, you need data connectivity and all infrastructure requirements which are provided by the IT campuses for its operation. Number 2, as you were asking for SMEs, small and medium enterprises, today the IT campuses are coming out with 2 different models. One, allow the SMEs to develop their own infrastructure like furnishings and connectivities. Number 2, you do that complete fit out and do plug and play kind of arrangement. If you look at this, whichever the option they choose, you can able to add that. Otherwise, the flexibility will not be there. So, as a developer, we prefer both options basically based on the requirements of the end users. I'm getting into the presentation which will talk little bit wide spectrum of my co-speakers in the days, like NASCOM is here. I'm just getting some slides from their information, how the IT industry and growth and real estate in terms of commercial office space moving on. and then finally coming to the IT industry. What are the IT industry is looking at from the government or from the developer's point of view? I'm just covering those three areas. And a small case study of a place where I am from, Chennai. This agenda, I was just talking about it, the IT sector and the SEZs in India. Office space absorption trend in India compared to global absorption. Then we are talking about a little bit employment generation in IT service industry and the whole. How the IT companies evaluate the location from their operational point of view. That also I just have one or two slides. Then finally a small trend growth of Chennai city with respect to IT. When you look at this growth opportunities, this is the executive summary. There are a few slides which will talk a little more about it. Growth opportunities, how India is placed with respect to IT, and outsourcing destinations, how India is the preferred IT destination. And third is that why? Because we have higher level of talent pool in India, kind of information I will share. Now, coming to straight away the economics as well as the advantages we have, why India is being chosen as IT destination. Today, India, this is an ASCOM, this one information. We can look at it today, industry value, turnover is about 180 billion in year 2013, that is estimated. And going forward next 7 years, it's going to be something like 300 billion level. And why it has to happen? There is a strong demand for IT business, which I will share with you in subsequent slides. If you look at it, the competitive advantage, there are 60 to 70% of outsourcing overall is happening from India. More precisely, I was just listening to the conversations, some of the conversations between few of us. I came to know that we have excellent educational institutions, infrastructure, and I was also listening that the previous session, the way that Uttar Pradesh government is coming out with a lot of initiatives. I'm sure this is also one of very critical one. You look at the talent pool, which is very, very critical. I'm also hearing the three major institutions which are here, which is creating a lot of talents. I think that is also very, very important. Policy support, this is one thing very, very important. In fact, when you look at the IT industries, we have 100 acres ITSEs are coming up. I was told about Lucknow SEZ. I'm just interested to touch upon how this SEZ is really beneficial both for the end using operating companies as well as the developing infrastructure developing companies. Both companies as of date, if you look at it, on the development front and the operation front, both are benefited with the current SEZ roads. It's very, very interesting if you look at it. The construction front alone, you will be able to save to the extent of about 12 to 14% of the total construction cost is just the benefits available as of the prevailing policy. If you look at end users, there is no difference between end users, that is the operating companies in the SEZ. They will also be completely benefited other than the infrastructure development. All their operating equipments like computers, everything is customs duty and tax exempted. Besides, of course, states like UP, Tamil Nadu and other states are also coming forward with their own IT policy, which we have seen today it was launched. I think it is also a motivating factor for IT companies to look at coming forward into this kind of establishments. On the slide show. Okay, let it come. In the meantime, I just continue. Basically, what I would like to share here is that in many of the IT companies, this is the trend. If you look at this overall commercial office trend, from 2008 onwards, there was some sort of a sagging. After that, it picked up. What I am trying to say in this slide is that if you look at this absorption trend, very, very attractive in totality. It is all the office space absorption. When you come to this particular slide, you can see the bottom six, the IT or the services industry is contributing more than 70% of the absorption of the office space being developed in the country. What it says, it means there are a lot of potential for office requirement, more precisely in the service industry, including IT. This is the slide I was talking about it. This is predominantly for our Roman friends, probably they may look at it. Any company coming to operate in any part of the city, they look at these 5 parameters. These are really attractive for them, like real estate, the land, and availability of various infrastructure, which is what is being conveyed here. You can look at it. Real estate is one part, human resource is another part. Third is the business environment. It should be looking like a very safe and secure city kind of arrangement. Then physical infrastructure, I was just listening to the previous speaker, he was mentioning about metro, which is really a must. If you look at it, Chennai, we have metro, MRT, bus transport, every transport which is integrated together, like what Delhi is all about. Any person get into any kind of transport mode, they can able to use any kind of transport mode, like train or bus or metro kind of thing. And then finally social environment. Social environment is also very important for the IT kind of, because a lot of expat population also will be there, so we need to have that kind of infrastructure. If you look at this trend, this is very specific slide for the tier 2 cities later. If you look at it, the tier 2 cities are becoming very, very popular in the recent days. Why? Because various reasons, that is cost of operations, cost of land, because everything is through ISP mode, so it is very attractive. So Lucknow has a lot of positive sign in this particular area. I just thought Uttar Pradesh also has some sort of specific strength and opportunities, because it is proximity to New Delhi, is very nearby, and Noida is already developed one. Then you have established IT policy systems right now in the place, so it is very interesting. And next is that employment opportunity through IT sector. This is something which everybody knows. It is predominantly, if you look at it, we have almost like 50% of the employment in the last decade is from this IT sector, that is IT sector. So what I would like to highlight here is that any developer interested to go for IT development, or any companies operating or interested to operate in any premise, they will be looking at it, a lot of physical infrastructure and some sort of communication systems. These things are very important. Availability of power, that is also very critical for any kind of IT companies. These are few experiences we thought we will share with you. Availability of reliable power, availability of a physical infrastructure, all those things are very critical for operating companies. I am sorry, I am taking a little more time. Thank you very much. But in any case, I would like to share only one thing. In India, we have a lot of potential for IT growth. The companies are also focused in various type of cities. So Lucknow is going to be one of the preferred locations, I suppose. I wish all the best.
Thank you, Mr. Villain. You accepted my graciously to conclude the session. Now I would like to invite Mr. Rajiv Vaishnav. The question is, everybody knows what NASSCOM is planning to do more about IT infrastructure development. We are all stuck in several projects across India. A lot of SWAN projects are unfinished, a lot of data centers are unfinished, a lot of large infrastructure projects, IT infrastructure projects are unfinished. So is NASSCOM doing anything to coordinate between the private party and the government to do anything to create a policy and take it forward?
Thank you, Mr. Murthy. Thank you very much. Very good afternoon to you, all of you. Dignitaries on the dais, ladies and gentlemen. Government of Uttar Pradesh for giving such a wonderful opportunity for NASSCOM and personally for me, because I must confess that my association or relation with Uttar Pradesh was limited so far to just Noida. And this is the first time that I have come to Lucknow. And I'm amazed by the overall feel, the moment of truth as you come out of the airport and you get into the city and you realize the kind of environment and the hospitality, the warmth in the air, whatever that we have heard about Lucknow and Uttar Pradesh, I felt that since morning and I'm so delighted. I was listening the morning session and that gave a huge perception shift to an outsider like me, and when I'm saying outsider like me, I'm considering myself as a layman. Perception is reality, and if the perception is reality, I must tell the world that the perception is wrong. Change the perception because the reality is different. What we hear since morning and what we have listened to the senior officers of government talking about various policies, various huge visions and unrolling of the vision, that gives us very strong confidence. As industry, businesses, people, to look at Uttar Pradesh. To my mind, जो सफर की शुरुआत करते हैं वो मंजिल को पार करते हैं। जो सफर की शुरुआत करते हैं वो मंजिल को पार करते हैं। हौसला सिर्फ ये रखना है कि हमें शुरू करना है। हौसला सिर्फ ये रखना है, हमें सिर्फ ये हौसला रखना है कि शुरुआत कहां से करें। उसके बाद अच्छे इंसानों की तो रास्ते की भी इंतजार करते हैं। अच्छे इंसान, अच्छे बिजनेस का इंतजार रास्ते भी करते हैं। And I think this is where the opportunity has been paved by government of Uttar Pradesh. Very delighted because NASSCOM, अभी हम infrastructure की बात कर रहे थे. Our first president, Mr. Devan Mehta, in mid-90s have said, roti kapda makan, these are the basic need of people, of mankind. And he added in 1995-96 time frame, roti kapda makan, bijli and bandwidth. Now if we have bijli and bandwidth and we are talking of infrastructure, we are talking of the support that IT industry would require, the environment that IT industry would require. And this is where we are drawing. वो ज़माना अलग था जब raw material जहाँ मिलता था वहाँ manufacturing हो जाता. Now wherever there is talent, the IT industry goes there. And we have seen that. To start with from Noida, IT technology services, embedded software, these are the kind of industries which are developing, and that requires a very, very separate kind of, or a unique kind of talent, and which is available in the state. Coming to Lucknow, and we are focusing here. What we have listened and what we are experiencing and what we are going to see, the kind of changes that are happening in the state, the kind of leadership that has been provided by Honorable Chief Minister and everyone down the line. वो जो कहते थे पहले आप में गाड़ी छूट जाएगी, we now can confidently tell the industry that if you will do पहला उत्तर प्रदेश की गाड़ी आपके लिए छूट जाएगी. I think it is important for the businesses to look at Uttar Pradesh to see that here is the potential. We did our 80 Kradi study in 2008, where we said that there are leader locations, there are challenger locations, there are followers and there are aspirants. And we said that 90% of the revenues are generated out of 7 leader locations. And 90% of the employment is generated within the leader locations. By 2018, this was a 10-year projection in the report, we said that whether we like it or not, the leader locations will have to grow 2.5 times, and that includes Noida as an NCR leader location. 2.5 times the location will have to grow. But the 43 other locations, and that includes Kanpur, Lucknow and Allahabad, 43 other locations will grow 18 times of 2008 status. So when the growth is irreversible, and to answer your question, when there are projects which are incomplete due to multiple reasons that we have seen in IT industry, in world economic scenario, in a kind of downturns, we thought that it will be a very small kind of a weak kind of a downturn. We realized it was a bucket downturn. But now the world is coming out, the industry is coming out, and we are seeing the change, we are seeing the optimism, we are seeing that the hiring is now getting back on track. Though it will be just in time hiring, but still the trend is positive. And once there are indicators of growth, I'm sure there will be pressure to complete infrastructure, there will be pressures on the various government departments to ensure that there is a process which is on fast track. And this gives me the confidence. And we have been discussing with multiple global companies where they are very confident that the cost advantage of India is not going to go away for the next 15-20 years. I'm saying with the tier 2, tier 3 locations that are now becoming powerful, where the government is focusing their resources, their energies to grow those locations, this advantage for India is going to last for many, many more years. And to conclude, I would say, looking at the I think there is an influence of Lucknow on me today, and I would say that इतना एक क्षमा अंधेरे में जलाए रखिए, सुबह होने को है माहौल बनाए रखिए, कौन जाने कि फिर वो किस राह गुजर से गुजरे. The opportunity can come from anywhere. कौन जाने कि फिर वो किस राह गुजर से गुजरे, हर राह गुजर को फूलों से सजाएगा. Thank you.
Thank you, Rajaji. I think besides the Lucknow influences, the election influence also, where a lot of these trade onliners coming up. Now I invite Naval from IBM to talk about the various technologies, new technologies. Naval, if we can actually have something around the busiest word which IBM focuses on, the smarter cities. Some few words on that also. And you have 5 minutes. I'm so sorry.
Mostly, actually, thank you very, very much, and thank you everybody that we talk and give me the chance. Actually, I was speechless after the last presentation, so I don't know how much I can cover, but the serious note, the idea is today from IBM is to share some of the work that we're doing in area of IT growth or in the area of government solutions. So let's quickly do that. Let's do how much we can do. Okay, so I think I was also impressed with Rahulji's presentation today, and I think that's pretty heartening to see the projects going in that direction and that direction. And I think with that we can play a big role in those kinds of projects and solutions. So with this starting diagram, I want to highlight the kind of focus which is going around in areas of governance, in areas like infrastructure, human resources, and some kind of planning and management. So all over the globe across governments are actually looking these pillars as important means of transformation, be it urban planning, be it environment, be it the basic infrastructure like energy, utilities, public safety, and other kind of stuff. And I think we are probably, you can say, so that we are very much enriched in all of those kind of solutions. So IBM has been working very closely with a lot of governments in helping in those areas. If you see some of the solutions in each of those pillars, human, infrastructure, planning and management, we've been providing a lot of technology and consulting support to governments to do so. And we'll probably touch upon some of these solutions very quickly in coming slides. Now, starting with the first in the government agency administration, I think a lot of reforms are going around and we have seen that. I'm starting with a very simple thing, and I think I've noted a lot of points from one of the session we talked about a lot of content in IGRS, archival, information available, a lot of legal compliance issues also. So I think first thing starts with the digitization part of it. So if you have a lot of content which may be structured or unstructured kind of format, it has to be made available in an electronic or digitized format. And organizations across in governments are actually trying to digitize the content and apply that content for business process automation. And citizen services kind of a project, be it back office automation, passport, everywhere there is a clear need of enterprise-wide process automation, which is content-driven. So IBM is offering solutions in approach like case management. See, like we are a private citizen, reach out to any enterprise or any organization. So the way we expect those services, I think government will also be expected to deliver those services. So there's a need for a case worker kind of approach when any kind of a department back office automation is required. So that's just a glimpse. We talk about IBM Case Manager as a solution which can do the enterprise automation, workflow approval. I will talk about the IT word just to give a perspective as a product capability. But at the end of it, on the business side of it, we are only talking about the process automation. What manually people do it, how can I improve their process, how do I improve the citizen experience using these technologies. So let me move on. We have many examples in India where we have leveraged our tools like Department of Post, one of the big automation going on. We're talking about the visa processing, we're talking about the factories and boilers. In fact, factories and boilers, if you see a lot of vendors come for application of licenses and all that. So there's a lot of back-end process involved. We have to apply, we have to take no objection certificate. So this entire process automation through the content need to be viewed as a case. Okay, like a case folder, like a files in government move, all the information about certain kinds of services need to be looked upon. So case manager brings that approach. So I think Uttar Pradesh can also leverage this technology in many of the projects, some of these I have listed. Moving on to the second part of the kind of a solution that governments are now adopting is the operations center or the command center. I think it is critically important to monitor cities with the approach like a CEO does it for the organization. So I need to see the pulse of my city. How is my city behaving? Is water, is electricity, is crime, all of those are under control. So there is a need for an intelligent operations center where I can have a complete view of how things are going around. That's really handy, very useful, and people have adopted, governments have adopted in cases like disaster management, city surveillance, and other kind of approaches. So I'm just rushing through some of these screenshots. It could be a dashboard view of how cities performing, red, yellow, green, all that indicators. I can also use it for how my revenue is being collected. As an example, municipal could be there, municipal taxes could be there, how the flow is coming, how my events are captured in the city. If I'm talking about, let's say, Lucknow, how to make Lucknow the smartest city, then as a command center I can view what kind of events are happening in my city. Maybe there's a blast happening, maybe there's some kind of a traffic jam happening. Where it is happening, how it is happening, and how can I actually do the cross-agency collaboration. These are very, very important aspects when we talk about the operation part. So I'm giving a small time for this. We have seen across in our region, like Philippines, we're talking about hospitals, we're talking about stadium. All of them require certain kind of operation management system where we can help this. Okay, let me rush. So next is the transportation. I think that's the challenge everywhere. We're talking about how do I manage my traffic? How do I manage my transportation? I think we talked about metro and some of the other examples given. So that's an area where a lot can be done. How do I actually help smooth my traffic? Do I know where the traffic is going to be congested? That's some about the prediction kind of stuff. Okay. So how traffic is flowing in the city? Is there a jam crowd? So a lot of areas of improvement where we can use smarter solutions like these in terms of managing the transport. And across the world, Singapore, in China, they have adopted it and they are seeing the benefit. Similarly, also like transportation, water is also a big concern. It's a big scarcity, and I think world across water being preserved, water being looked upon in terms of the leakages across. Do I need to do certain type of work, or do I need to be fixed upon timely? So management of the water, distribution of water, resources like various water resources, how do I actually get a control of it? I think operations can be managed very effectively with that. I want just 2 slides. Let me move further. Yeah, just go Go ahead. So now I'm just 2 slides away. So we just touch upon very rushedly areas like citizen experience, government administration, we talk about transportation, water, intelligent operation sector. Now in the next 2 slides, I'm just going to shift a bit in areas like social delivery transformation. So QRM worldwide, globally, governments had adopted this. So QRM is a means by which citizen service can approach government in much, I would think, nicer fashion. So just to take an example, I read through e-scholarship. There's one of the initiative I think UP State is going through. So if I, as a citizen or as a student, need to look at what kind of a scholarship I am eligible for, I probably need a medium where I can enter my data, and the system should throw me all the kind of relevant scholarship that I am eligible for automatically, rather than I am going through 10 different departments to rectify. And then obviously the means to determine the eligibility and give the benefits. So whole gamut is actually being taken up by social security platform called Pradesh, definitely has a project going into that. The last slide I'm talking about public safety. IBP is also doing quite a good amount of work in the public safety, disaster management, those kind of areas. But the portfolio like I2, which can help police, which can help investigation agencies, which can help defense in terms of investigating the cases, linking the information. So that's one of the major issue where they might have some information, but it's very difficult to link those, join the dots, see visually how information can be linked, who is the person who is calling the shot. So a lot can be benefited with the technologies like that, and that's what public safety power. I think this is the last slide. I guess I could take the time. Any questions we can take it later. Thank you.
Thank you, Kaladas from Cisco, you have the last slot, but the question for you is to have a knowledge about what Cisco has done beyond the networking, which is usual business, anything which is around the e-government services delivery to the citizens. Then case studies you want to share worldwide.
So I got out of Bangalore and I'm very happy to be here. I have been a regular visitor for a long time, formerly in the Indian Army. A remarkable city, and I think this leap of faith that people have been wanting to see, we can see the green shoots of that, and we'd like to be partners to it and innovate global solutions for Uttar Pradesh's needs. One of the things, and I'll limit myself to about 3 minutes, and I'll go around your questions, is can we have the next slide, please? Two things that we look at. One of the reasons is there's increasing transparency that people are expecting out of governments. And most recently, Somdo on delivering services through various means. We call it smart and connected communities. So you look at the government, it has certain careabouts. There are some top of the mind things that it's worried about this morning. Javed Sahib spoke about the agenda for development, which is a blueprint for Uttar Pradesh for the next 4 to 5 years. And sorry about that. And then you have the citizen careabouts. If you really ask somebody who's in a village, and for those of us who grown up in villages, the last thing you want to do is to go to a city and chase people to get your work done. So we are doing some work in Chendu and in Samdo on these where you have, let me get to that straight. So you see that kiosk at the bottom of the screen, bottom left? So that's something that's been implemented in large numbers in these new cities, and these are bespoke cities, where all services are given out of one single endpoint, one single location. And the challenge I think in India is while you have NOFS, you have SWANs, I think the real challenge lies still further ahead, and that is the last one. As a country, I think we have seen many instances earlier where everything being done, the last mile is actually where the challenge is. And that's why the citizens don't call the government economy. No matter how much you invest in NOFS, no matter how much you invest in SWANs, idea of delivery of services at the endpoint, right? We have a problem. Just food for thought. Let me now skip all of this and let's go to the use case. Now this is something that we're doing in Zombie is how without any face-to-face interaction from analogous to a block in India, how you can go to the block office and get all your work done. Be sure that the land that you have is backed up with documentation, it has a history behind it, and all those things that you need to potentially draw a loan, maybe for the small and medium enterprises, can all be done without having to travel all the way to Lucknow or to Kanpur for that matter. And the last, I'd like to just highlight something that we are developing out of Bangalore exclusively for India. Now, so this is something that's been built out of Cisco Bangalore. Cisco Bangalore is the second largest engineering center in the world for Cisco. It's our second global headquarters. This platform is being built out of Bangalore, and this is undergoing trial in Chindwara and in Raichur in Karnataka. And this is one simple box which meets all the requirements for education and for health. Simply installed, can take a wide variation in power, has potentially significant amount of power within it, and it can connect to a single line network and deliver all these services. And a lot of it is there on the slide. I would like to go over it, but we'd like to leave a point behind, food for thought, that when you have global solutions coming from people who have innovated, I think at the end of the day there is some bit of innovation that has to be done locally. And I think the state which potentially going to be, we talk of it as the 5th largest country in the world requires global technologies, local solutions. Thank you.
Another round of applause for Arjun, because he has finished before his allotted time. Thank you, panelists. It was a wonderful session. If there are any questions, please have it during the lunch discussion, so because we have completely run out of time. I thank everyone on the panel. Thank you.
Thank you everyone on the panel for giving us your valuable time and shedding light on some very important issues. I would please request the panelists to stay back for a moment. And time for the honors now. I would request Sri Rajiv Agrawal, the chair of the session, to kindly present the memento to Sri Rajiv Agrawal is please requested to present the memento to the chair, Sri Alok Kumar. The secretary, stamp and registration, Government of UP. Please put your hands together. Sri Rajiv Agrawal, and hereafter I request Sri Alok Kumar to present the memento to Sri Rajiv Agrawal, Chairman, Metro Cell, Government of UP. And after this mutual honor, I once again request Sri Alok Kumar, the Chair, to present the memento to the rest of our esteemed panelists. We start with C. Velan, CEO, Info Tata Realty Infrastructure Limited. And thereafter we have Sri Rajiv Vaishnav, Vice President, NASCOM, being presented the memento by Sri Alok Kumar. Please put your hands together for the moment. And then we have Sri Alok Kumar presenting the next memento to Sri NSN Murthy, Director Ernst & Young LLP, and your moderator for the session. Please put your hands together. And then I would also request Sri Alok Kumar to kindly present a memento to Sri Naval Khosla, General Manager, Industry Solutions, IBM. And then I would also request Sri Alok Kumar to present the last but certainly not the least memento to Colonel KPM Das, Vertical Expert, National Security and Defence, Cisco, India. Please put your hands together for all the gentlemen and our enlightened panelists. And before we conclude this session, I would like to call on the dais Sri G.S. Naveen Kumar, the Special Secretary for the state to present the vote of thanks.
Distinguished audience and the facilitated guest. This is an important session and thank you everyone for giving this time. Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone. Our guests are please requested to move for the lunch.
आपको पावर तो अपना कैमरा बैटरी चार्जिंग पे लगा लो वो खाली अपनी बात
This is to inform to everybody that after the lunch, we will be starting with a new session at 2:30. I request the guests to please have a lunch at the poolside area. We will be starting the next session at 2:30 p.m. after the lunch.
क्या बैग और ये मैडम का ये थोड़ा सेव करके रख लो यार। यहाँ इस चेयर पर डाल दो, मैं है ना, ये फोल्डर भी। शिवा जी, अंकित इज हियर।
Thank you.